Welcome to the Album Anniversary Podcast. Today's show is about Strange Negotiations by David Bazan. It was released May 24th, 2011, and is celebrating a 15-year anniversary. I'm your host, Caleb, or Caleb the Spy is what I go by on some social media sites, and every day on those social media sites I post about what I call album anniversaries. So, on the Album Anniversary Podcast, we take a look at a classic album, an album we love, or an album that's important to us. Before I introduce our guest for today, I do just want to make a comment. I'm not going to edit if there's any swearing in the songs, and it comes through. I apologize for that. I will still edit the conversation, just to bleep out the swear words so you can listen around your kids, but it won't be in the songs because it's just too complicated to do. We have two wonderful returning guests that we haven't been talking for like a half hour already. So obviously we're already having a good time. We're going to start a Parks podcast, all sorts of different things. But welcome back to the show. First off, I want to introduce Jeremy. Jeremy, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Great to be back.
Excited to have you. Second time on the show, and we were just talking about Rob. Also, welcome back to the show. Fourth time on the show.
Woohoo, let's go.
And after this, they're going to get together. They're going to start, like I said, they're going to start a Parks podcast where they'll document parks of the East Coast. I think you guys could do this. I think it could be a thing.
Yeah, I'm up for it, although we are on the opposite side of the Mason-Dixon line, so hopefully there won't be any kind of Civil War, residual tensions between us.
Could you do it? Could you do it like one of you visits and then like gives the review to the other one and then like have a rating? I think you guys could do this. Although it might be better in blog format because then you could take pictures.
Pictures.
So
true.
So I don't know if an audio podcast is the way to go. But you can have your kids.
We'll workshop it. We'll workshop the idea.
We'll workshop. See if we can get a network to pick us up. Amy Poehler, you're talking about Amy Poehler's podcast.
There you go.
That's right. She's got a podcast.
She's our first guest on the podcast for sure.
I like that idea. Hey, can you back us financially, even though you have nothing to do with actual parks anymore? Again, we're talking about Strange Negotiations by David Bazan. Again, as far as I can tell, May 24th, 2011. So celebrating a 15-year anniversary. This is his second solo album. So didn't even count the Pedro albums before this, which was probably foolish of me. But second solo album, and it was on the record label Berserk, is what I want to say. I think I have it spelled wrong in my notes, but I think it's Berserk.
Barsuk. I always thought it was Barsuk.
Yep.
I mean, that makes me think of Death Cab. It makes me think of Nada Surf.
Yeah.
I think American Football might have been on that record label.
It's possible. Harvey Danger and They Might Be Giants are two other ones that I wrote down.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think, does he still have a relationship with them? I'm assuming he does.
I don't know.
Transatlanticism by Death Cab was another big one on that label.
That's just an all-timer. That's in my top 15 maybe ever.
Yeah, it still has him listed as artist, so I'm assuming he still has some relationship with them. But who knows? I don't know what the Pedro ones are on. Hold on, I'm gonna look.
I think they're on Jade Tree.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah. Jade Tree, yeah.
Yeah, so he's no longer with them because he's now mostly doing Pedro stuff. But there you go. It's a fairly well-known record company. So
Seattle, it's all Seattle.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest music,
Exactly.
Dreary, rainy.
Kind of like the cover. Well, I don't know if the cover is dreary because it's just a reflection of a pool. We don't ever talk about the artwork on the podcast, but it's an interesting cover. So,
we'll talk about the artwork.
Oh, okay. I guess we'll get there. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll pause then. So this was recorded in his home studio, and it is produced by David Bazan as well as Man, I am going to mess this up, and I apologize. Yuki Matthews is how I want to say the other person who gets a producer credit. He has worked with TJ Walsh, who is also does the mastering on this, is a longtime collaborator with David Bazan. He's also worked with the Shins, Andy Fitz. I mentioned him because he got bass credit on this album, so we're like folding in all the people. And then he did some of the guitar work on this. So I don't know anything else about, and I have no idea if I'm saying that right, Yuki Matthews, but those are the kind of two people who get producer credits on this.
I would just add that is TJ Walsh the same one that was referenced in the lyric of Control, I assume? Something about T. William, well, that's T. William Walsh. Do you know what I'm talking about, Rob? I agree with T. William Walsh, and I'm not afraid to die was a line in, I think, Control. And it'd be hard. It seems like
It's got to be the same
somewhat
person.
likely that
T.W.
it's,
Walsh. Yeah.
yeah. So, this guy was clearly important enough to actually be referenced in a Pedro song. So I find that interesting.
He's worked with him a lot on T.W. Walsh is in a lot of Bazan related stuff. Some of the other, so we already mentioned some of the musicians. Andy Fitz on bass, Alex Westcoat on drums, Jared McSherry on guitar, and feedback. He gets credit for the feedback. So that's some of the people involved. And I know, David brings a lot of different people in, although I feel like he's got a pretty steady crew on Pedro at this on Pedro the Lion stuff at this point. But I have no other familiarity with any of those three. I don't know. Do either of you guys know who any of those three guys are?
I do not.
No, but I'd love to be credited for feedback on a record someday.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out which song it was too, and I was like, because it can't be all of them, but there's got to be one. I remember at one point listening to this, preparing, I was like, oh, that's got to be it, but I have no idea. So fairly impressive. The album did peak at number 32 on the Billboard Top Rock charts, so it's not the main 200, but the rock charts, which I think is pretty good. And again, we mentioned before the show, we were kind of talking about the idea that his switch from Pedro the Lion to just his own name did, I think, he's made the comment that he wishes he would have just kept the Pedro moniker through all of his stuff, but still 32 on the Billboard Top Rock charts is pretty good. I had very solid reviews coming out, so the AV Club and both NPR gave it really good reviews. Those are a couple I could find. And then I think the other kind of interesting fact about this record is that there is a documentary about David Bazan that's titled Strange Negotiations. You can find it on Amazon Prime. You can rent it for, I think, $1.99. I have never actually seen it. So, have both of you guys seen it?
Phenomenal. It was so good. I watched it a second time, probably 3 days after I saw it. It was just very moving, very affecting to me. Although it wasn't made until I think the COVID era it came out, right? So it's not like it came out in correlation with the album. It was directed,
Correct.
I know, by Brandon Vetter, which I gave him props on Twitter because I loved it so much. I tagged him and he really appreciated it. So I remember that name as to who directed it. But I mean, it had some legit directing in it. Like even the camera, some of the drone shots they used where they were zooming in on the church. Do you remember that, Rob? It was almost ominous. It felt like something from a Jordan Peele movie. So it's really, as a documentary, it's high art, and it's also just very wrenching. Some of the stuff that it shows really makes you feel what kind of headspace he was in that time of his life. But I don't think it came out until years later. I'd have to.
No, it was years later. Yeah, it's titled the same as the album, but it's unrelated. It's more about Bazan's life and life on the road and faith and family life. And
it came out in 2019, I see. And I'm trying to remember now, was that when the footage was from it? So it really wasn't about the Strange Negotiations tour at all, maybe?
No.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's
they just used the phrase because it was a cool phrase.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's a connecting the dots. Like if this album means enough to him that he's like, hey, or just there's enough. Yeah, like for him, that song or that phrase has just kind of a bigger meaning, and just felt like it was a good way to use it again. So yeah. But that's cool. I have never seen it. I looked at it this week and I was like, do I have time for this? And I didn't, because I don't have time for anything. So I apologize for not seeing it myself, but I'm going to recommend it, even though I haven't seen it, based upon you guys' recommendation.
It's very superb. Good. It's one of the best documentaries that I've seen.
There you go.
Yeah, it makes me want to watch more music documentaries because I haven't really tapped into that genre, and this shows how much it's capable of revealing about an artist.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's 5 stars.
Any other fun facts that you guys have that you want to bring up now?
I would say if is not sure if it's too fun, but I discovered Pedro in college, and then after Achilles Heel, I lost track of him completely because that was a disappointing album for me.
Hmm.
After I had adored everything before it, it felt just so kind of weary and kind of bleak and not very inspiring to me in the way that Control was. And then I lost track of him for over a decade. And so I was not like when Strange Negotiations and Curse Your Branches before that and Blanco and everything came out, I was not really aware of it. I don't know why, because I loved him so much. But then I just rediscovered him with a vengeance. And now I'm just a humongous fan, even more than I was in college. Because then I think I found it more provocative and interesting in a provocative way. Now I feel like I know him as a person and I just want to hang out with him. And I feel like I trust him and I like him and I respect him in a way that I didn't know enough about him back then to feel that way. So just to all that to say that I was not with him at this point in his career. I had kind of forgotten about him, and I'm glad that I reconnected with him later.
Do you remember when it was that you like kind of? Do you remember listening to this when you like came back into his musical catalog?
Well, I didn't listen to it, and when I came back in, it was it Phoenix? Phoenix, and I just loved that. I loved Havasu. I loved Modesto. But probably after Phoenix, I thought, okay, I need to go in and fill the blanks. So then I went back and checked out Strange Negotiations, and I loved it. Curse Your Branches, the Care, that kind of electronic album, and some of the side projects he did. So that was probably, when did Phoenix come out?
It's 2019.
Not 2019, yeah.
So that's when I caught up and realized how much I had missed.
Yeah.
So I don't know why Achilles Heel put me off so much. I mean, I went back to that one recently and thought that's a pretty good album. It's not as good as others, but I don't know why it put me off so much. I think it was the song I Do. I felt like that was such an unbelievably depressing song that it was like I wasn't ready in my life to handle that degree of despair or that degree of like not nihilism, but just like absolutely unvarnished. Like this is just the way it is. Everything's pretty messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a shift for his career. I mean, you know, he was trying to say, I mean, he had a lot. He's always had a lot to say, but yeah. So yeah.
Well, and I should say, like, I realized Control is really the darkest album he's released. So it's not like he suddenly was dark. It's that it just felt kind of listless to me, but I don't really think that's valid. I think it's just how it hit me at that point in my life. But Control is like jet black dark. That's just like bleak satire and just as brilliantly written as any album I can think of. I mean, that's just a masterpiece all the way around. So so he was dark before that, but Achilles Heel just kind of took him in a direction I didn't care for as much.
Yeah. Rob, how about for you? Were you still with Bazan when this came out, and what was your introduction to this record?
I was newish to Bazan when this came out. So I'd heard of Pedro the Lion like throughout high school and stuff, but it was kind of a little bit before I was kind of getting into my own music. And as I was getting into music, I kind of started with a lot of punk and skater punk and ska punk and things like that. And then that kind of morphed into more aggressive music, heavier music, post-hardcore, and some indie rock and things like that. But by that point, Pedro had kind of disbanded or stopped. and things were kind of quiet from that camp until Curse Your Branches in 2009. And by that point, when that came out, I was 2009, I was in college. And, in college, when you're wrestling with a lot of those big questions of the world, and then you get an album like Curse Your Branches, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. I see what he's saying and where he's coming from. It made a huge impact. And so I was like, oh, this is the Pedro the Lion guy. Okay, I've heard that name. I have a couple scattered songs, a couple songs off Control, and a couple songs off Winners Never Quit, Hard to Find a Friend. But I went back and then kind of revisited. And so if Kurt Your Branches was my first introduction to Bazan, then I went back to the previous discography and was primed and ready when Strange Negotiation came out. So I was ready for it when it dropped.
Yeah, cool.
In 2011.
And I'm assuming CD, or is it a CD that you still own to this day, or?
I think I was just straight iTunes at that point.
Okay.
It was that period of time where CDs weren't worth it, I guess, quote unquote. I know that's going to break some people's hearts because of how I'm totally 100% a physical media guy now, and pretty much always have been. But there was like a couple of years where it's just like CDs were really expensive, vinyl wasn't really taking off yet, so it was like, well, $10 for an iTunes album. I can listen to it on my iPod. And I still love my iPod too. But anyway, no, I'm sure it was an iTunes purchase. And yeah, in 2011, when it came out in May, I was engaged in January of 2011. I was married by October of 2011. So it was like this last like season of living alone, or living with my parents technically, but single life, unmarried life. Again, wrestling with big life questions and decisions. And again, this album has a lot of questions and dichotomies and, how much are you willing to give up and how much are you willing to change yourself? And, we'll get into it with more of the lyrics and the songs, but again, it was right there ready for me. Perfect.
Yeah. Nice. Well, my story is similar to Jeremy's, actually. It's kind of a little bit of a melding of the two in some ways. Like, I was familiar with David Bazan, and like I had a roommate in like, I want to say 2004-ish, 2005. He was into Pedro the Lion, and I kind of just wasn't. I don't think I was ready for it at all. And I've told this story before, so I should probably be quick about it because people who've listened to my other Pedro shows and David Bazan shows have heard it. But like, it's 2019. That album Phoenix, I remember just being Quietest Friend was my favorite song of 2019. And I just remember just kind of being blown away by that song. The whole album I love that whole record, but that song in particular, I remember just playing it over and over and over again. And I'm an album guy, so that's weird for me to like go and listen to just a song. And that was when I kind of like, so my fandom is really only, 6-7 years old. And I went back and, since got his whole catalog. I've got a handful of vinyl, a handful of CDs, and just have gone back through it. And so, but yeah, it was that record. So I was really late on Dave Bazan and Pedro the Lion. And that's really what I should name the show. Caleb is late on everything. It would have been a better name for the podcast because it's like the story every single time. So yeah, that's kind of my first connection. And I don't remember my first time listening to this one in particular. It's kind of is all of a mismatch of 2019, 2020, 2021 as I kind of walked through his catalog. So I can't remember my first time. What a bummer, but it is what it is.
Everyone has to find Bazan in their own timing.
Or maybe Bazan finds you.
Yeah.
That kind of feels true, I think, for a lot of people. So, that's funny.
But now you're selfish and mean, your eyes glued to the screen. And what titillates you is depraved. And I've seen and I know that it's dangerous to judge. But man, you gotta find the truth. And when you find that truth, don't budge until the truth you found begins to change. And it does not know. I know. When you love the truth enough, you start
what is it that we like about this album or love about this album? Whatever adverb, what is that part of English? Whatever you want to throw on it. Like or love. I'm so stupid.
I'll start by saying, I guess, I like slash love that it's not Curse Your Branches Part 2.
Hmm.
I love Curse Your Branches. I love when it came out, and I feel like it's this linchpin album of his career, an important one that he needed to get out of his system, I suppose.
Hmm.
Everyone calls it the Breakup with God album, right? And that's good, well, fine, and it's important and perfect in the way that it is. And I was worried when I heard that he was going to have a new record. I was like, okay, is it going to be, and it was still under the David Bazan name, is it going to be kind of exploring more of the faith stuff? And there's some faith stuff, sure, on here. Not a ton, but it's sprinkled throughout. But I like that it's not. I like that it pivots toward external questions. I like that it pivots toward relationships. I like that it pivots toward, um, politics and, philosophy of decision making and uh, the evolution or de-evolution of the world and relationships and how we get along with one another. Um, yeah, I really enjoy that it's an entirely different headspace than what he released 2 years prior. Because he could have just, done that again,
Yeah.
but didn't. He's like, I have other things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Come
And
with
I
me.
like I agree. I like that he gets into those things, that he doesn't like that was a choice because yeah, like he could have stuck with what has worked and instead was like, well, hey, let's tackle some of these other things. So yeah, I totally agree. Jeremy, what are things you like about this album?
Yeah, that's a great point about it not being Cursed Branches Part 2. I think it's a good bridge between Cursed Branches and what came later. Certainly what came much later with Phoenix and Havasu and Modesto. In that, yeah, that there's some faith stuff, but he's not just grinding an axe on 10 songs about deconstruction and the church. He dabbles in that, but it's just more about, yeah. I mean, I'm repeating what you said, but I like that it seems to be trying to find the line between calling things out and judging things that he finds maddening and trying to be at peace with the people in his life and with, just the way things are. And I feel like it's especially satisfying now knowing that he seems to have reached much more of a being much more at peace with things now, and it doesn't seem like he's nearly as agitated now. It seems like he's kind of gotten to know himself well enough and like kind of made peace with his past selves and stuff. So this feels like a step toward that in a way that's very satisfying to watch. It's like there's some hard edges to the album, but there's also some pretty poignant things. Virginia, that song, there's just so much warmth and empathy to that, which I think he just got more and more openly empathetic as his career went on. And once I saw him live, I kind of realized, oh, this guy is just an empath. He's just a sweetheart. Like if you just listen to Control, you might think, oh, this is a guy who's just provocative. He's trying to push buttons and he's a good writer, but maybe he is just pissed off at everything. But man, he's way more than that. And I think this album started to show more and more of his softer edges and his ability to find his ability to empathize even with people that he utterly disagrees with and can't really understand how they went so wrong. But he doesn't seem to want to just like utterly torch all those bridges. He knows that he still has to live with these people and love these people, and he does. Like, yeah. So
yeah,
I could get into a certain song, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
We will. It's my favorite song on the record, so we will get into it.
Yeah. I also think it just has some killer hooks. I mean, there are songs that I would say I don't quite know what he was getting at here, other than scattered lines. Whereas some albums, I feel like every single song, I know I could summarize that song in a sentence in a way because I know what he was kind of talking about. This album, I think, was a little bit more. Some of the songs were a bit more elusive, slippery for me, but the hooks were just, I mean, he's just a killer songwriter. He knows how to write a hook.
Yeah.
And there's some great rock hooks and there's some nice change of pace stuff. I think it's a really, really nice array of textures.
Yeah. Yeah, on the music, I think there's even just a lot of variety on this. Like you get some harder stuff, you get some stuff that feels angry, but then you get a sweet love song to close out the record. Like I think
Hmm.
it's a sweeter love song. That's my
Oh, I
interpretation
think
of
so
it.
too.
And
Definitely.
so like you get like even that there's lyrical variety, but there's also just musical variety, and I think it makes the album really really re-listenable. My only complaint about David Bazan sometimes is I'm a punk rock kid at heart, and like I want the pace to go sometimes, and he slows things way down and it works. But I like that he's got a little variety on this, and there's times where he picks up the tempo, and he's got some just great rock songs on this, which I think is
Yeah.
it's it's yeah, it's just makes the album really easy to re-listen to.
Yeah. There's not a lot of diverse instrumentation. It's pretty simple, but it's utilized very well. Sometimes you get albums that, throw in the entire kitchen sink, the orchestra, the electronic elements. You talk about maximalism with certain Sufjan records and things like that, and that's cool. Bazan does not do that.
Yeah.
He has his set limitations for different records, and this one has a very set rock set of instruments. The drums are very driving, the guitars are very crunchy in certain songs. You throw some EBO in there sometimes, but the bass is rocking. It's very concise instrumentally. But again, like what Jeremy said and what Caleb got to as well, um, yes, hooky, melodic.
Yeah.
There are these great riffs. Some of them remind me of like some Manchester Orchestra songs or something like that. It's like, oh, they could have done this, or and they're a big loud rock band. So to hear it coming from a David Bazan solo record is really cool.
Yeah.
My symmetry loving self appreciates that it has 10 songs, and song 1 and song 6 are both clearly uh song 1 type songs, like
Mm.
of each side, so it feels very symmetrical. Like you start off with a banger, you work your way to 5, and then you have another banger and you work your way to 10. So I appreciate that.
Oh,
I
I
think
never realized that actually. That's really great. Yeah, no, that's perfect.
yeah,
It has a great flow.
the two hooks that jump out the most every time I listen to it are Wolves at the Gate and Eating Paper. And so, yeah, that I think that's nicely spaced.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and even that like it it slows down a little in the second half of it, but it's like it still has like these kind of really great moments on the back half. Like it is not an album that feels like it has like fillers for it at
No,
all.
not at all.
And like so I'm a big fan of, 10 songs is a great length. 40 minutes is good. Like I do appreciate that. Yeah, this is one you can it really is it's 20 minutes on each side pretty much if you have it on vinyl and you get to do the flip halfway through. And yeah, it's nice and concise with there's not any real filler on this at all.
Yeah, although I also like that there is one notably longer song and it's perfect. Like it needs to be as
Mm,
long as it is. It stands out because
Mm.
it's as long as it is. It's at the right point in the album, which
hmm
is the title track, track 9, a little bit over 6 minutes. And he does, I don't know that he's gone over 6 minutes all that many times, but he makes
Hmm.
it count when he does.
Yeah.
And since I mentioned it earlier, kind of jokingly, but let's talk about the album art very briefly before we
Sure,
start
yes.
getting into more details. I think it is interesting that it's very intentionally a reflection. It's not a direct subject. I
Hmm.
think it's I don't know if he saw this photo and got permission for the album cover, if it was commissioned. I don't know anything about it, but that it's not a direct subject. It's a reflection. So it's a little obscured, it's a little obtuse, maybe kind of like the lyrics like you were talking about earlier, Jeremy. It's not as
Hmm.
like a storytelling as some of the other albums, but it's a naked female form, her backside, and then an elderly man. So again, a stark dichotomy, which
Hmm.
is brought up and negotiated, if you will, throughout the record of, you know, um, the dynamics of living in the age that he wrote this record.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've got to say I've looked at the album cover before, and I certainly noticed the shapeliness of the young female, but I did not until today when I read an article which said and it shows her two bare buttocks. And I thought, what? So I looked at it again and I thought, oh, maybe she is naked, but I'm not 100% sure because I haven't totally zoomed in. So if she is entirely naked, I did not catch it upon first viewing.
Should I grab my vinyl? Is right. Hold on. I'm gonna grab the vinyl. Hang on.
But you're confident that it's an older male? I wasn't entirely sure if
I mean, they're both
that's what it
turned
meant.
away,
Yeah.
so you can't be certain about anything, I suppose. But
Sure.
Yeah, it looks pretty bare, I will say. Now that I
I
look
thought,
at and it's somebody in the old dude's in pajamas is what it
yep,
looks like.
that's right.
yeah, striped
Yeah,
pajamas and the reflection in
Huh.
a pool.
it's a fantastic idea. I mean, it's just such a cool. You look at it, it took me a little while looking at it before I realized, oh my goodness, this is upside down. And if I
Hmm.
flip it around, I can understand what I'm looking at, but I didn't realize it first, so I was pretty mesmerized by that.
Any excuse to go run to the record player in the middle of a show, I will do it.
We were worried about your personal salvation. Was it heaven or hell that you saw when your eyes closed? You smiled at us, floating high above the question, like you knew something we didn't know.
So what are some of our favorite songs from this record?
I will start with Virginia.
All right.
Each time I read through the lyrics, I get another layer of this, but for some reason I hadn't caught until the last time I listened to it, the dream part that the whole first part was a dream about her. Well, first of all, I've heard it's about a teenager who died in the high school, who went to the high school that he went to,
Yeah.
and they changed her name to protect the family. But I didn't catch that the first part was him dreaming about her being older, right?
Hmm.
And him going to her house, and we all sat on the floor as my kids swam around us. You smoked cigarettes like I knew you would. So he's kind of like extrapolating what sort of an adult she might have been based on what she was like as a teenager. And then just it's so good what he said about, we were worried about your personal salvation. Was it heaven or hell that you saw when your eyes closed? You smiled at us, floating high above the question, like you knew something we didn't know. That is the economy of language, and how much I can relate to his perspective as the one who's like worried about her salvation as a teenager. That's exactly what I was trained to be like as a teenager as well. I just think that's wonderful, and I love that the empathy that he's giving this character, this person, by putting her into the story and kind of giving her this elevated status of someone who was basically more enlightened, or more, she just wasn't tied down to those same strictures and dogmas that he grew up with. She had her own thing, and like they were trying to pin her down to salvation and heaven and hell, and she was just she was Virginia.
Yeah.
So I love every bit of the lyrics in this song. I think it's a nice change of pace musically as well. What do you think of this, Rob? This song?
Oh, I love this song. It is hauntingly beautiful.
Hmm.
It is, yeah, yeah. I've wrestled with this song and spent a lot of time with it too, Jeremy. Um, yeah, I like how he kind of revisits that same lyrical pattern at the end for the graduation piece.
Hmm.
Like if she passed during high school, now they're reaching graduation, and you know, teachers or parents are like, what, how's it going to be? This person is gone. They're worried about the high school graduation. And then the references the Dr. Seuss book, oh, the places you'll go. But again, she is just beyond that. It has no bearing on her. You smiled it off, floating high above the question again, like you knew something they didn't know. Wow, I mean, I'm having chills right now. Again, yeah, just it's heavy, but it's playful. You know,
Yep.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, he's good at heavy but playful.
Yeah.
And just putting just enough specific touches into a story to make it come alive. And yet, again, the economy of language. He's not going into great detail. He can just pack so much into a line or two, and it just brings it to life in your mind. You feel like you know
Mm.
this person. Um,
And it's taking a difficult situation and forcing you to think through it. Like think about it in a bigger perspective and think outside of just the like tragedy of somebody passing in high school, but like yeah, like think about how that can impact you. And like it is musically it's perfect. It's the
Mm.
perfect song for these lyrics. Like this is him knowing and understanding how to write a song and how to compose a song. It also is perfect in the album. It's right, it closes out side A. It's a great follow-up to People. It, you know, especially with the subject of people, and then to this, like it brings it from this more commentary about where we're at as a society down to this like very specific thing. I mean, it's just it works
Mm.
so well on so many levels, this song. Rob, you get to pick the next one. Song draft, that's what I've started to call this.
I'll take Level with
oh,
Yourself.
you took my next
That's what I love is this becomes, oh, you took my song. Oh, now I can't talk about it.
That's
Oh.
okay. That's okay.
No, I definitely want all of us to talk about. I think Level with Yourself, unlike Virginia, Level with Yourself rips.
Yeah.
It comes perfectly after Wolves at the Door. I wrestled with picking Wolves at the Door or Level with Yourself, but I'm choosing Level with Yourself because of the one. I love songs that are intentionally messy or
Hmm.
either fake a flub or leave a flub in there or whatever. So it's the perfect part where the instruments drop out except for the little guitar line. He coughs and then he's like, "Go," and then it comes back in,
Yeah.
and like it's great. And the lyrical content, about being honest with yourself and those around you, living transparently. And then the way he uses the lines of the verse from Be Thou My Vision, just so creatively. Um, but then to kind of flip them on their heads, like, well, if this is true, then F the gatekeeper, because I'm fine outside the gate, So a little bit tying back into Curse Your Branches, but taking it a step forward of living authentically, and leveling with yourself, shedding the false pretenses of and airs of society.
But also leveling with yourself as opposed to doing what he said at the beginning, which is wake up in the morning, check your revelation,
Mm,
making sure you know it as well as you can, then sell it to yourself, man, because it won't make a difference if everyone believes it, but you don't
right,
believe it. So that's
right.
to me like the antithesis of leveling with yourself is doing that. I need to believe this, so I need to convince myself it's true. And that, I mean, that's a big theme throughout his career is just
Hmm.
you can't do that. You have to trust your body, you have to trust your mind. You can't um, you know, just cheat yourself of you can't be dishonest with yourself or else everything
Hmm.
else falls
Yeah.
apart. So I love the opening of that. I'm hoping you guys can clarify something for me though. I don't really follow. I'm building a wall between the kids and the gasoline of editorial and advertising. Did you, could you tell me what that part means?
I can't.
Okay.
I read that too and I was like, I don't know. Is it just sometimes it's just those phrases that work together? You know, he is so
Yeah.
specific previously. He doesn't have a whole lot of moments like that up to this point in his career where it's kind of
Yeah, I
this
wouldn't say,
turn of phrase that you're like, oh, that's cool. I can't tell exactly what he's trying
but
to
it
say.
seems like it's got it like is it a what do you call it? Is kids and gasoline correlate to editorial and advertising and they each correspond with each other, but I don't really know how that would work. Like kids are to gasoline as editorial is to advertising. I'm not sure, but maybe none of us are sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not sure.
I also like the phrase, was it in this one? Maybe it wasn't. Oh no, it was a different song where he said, "Oh, your God." And I just think, I don't know if anybody, I haven't heard anybody use that phrase. So it's like, instead of, "Oh my God," it's, "Oh, your God." But that was a different song. Never mind.
Yeah. Jeremy, you're up. You get the third pick. This is the Michael Jordan of. I was trying to think of big important third picks, and he's the only one that I could think of.
Wait, was that the David or the Sam Bowie? I was about to say
Yeah,
David Bowie.
Hakeem
That was
goes
the Sam Bowie
first.
pick.
Yeah, Sam Bowie goes second.
Well, let's talk about Strange Negotiations. Let's talk about the title track, unless you
All
want to
right.
save that. But there's so much going on there. I only understand parts of it, but I read some articles that made it clear from his own mouth that he was talking about politics somewhat, right? And the baby boomer generation and the strange negotiations, kind of the compromises that they made. So that helped me understand it a bit more. But I would like to understand it more. Maybe you guys can shed some light. But I love the phrase, you blew all your inheritance. There's just something very Bazan like about that. It made me think of the line in Control, which isn't quite the same, but where the dad gets home from work and the kids are at the pool and they run up and hug him unaware of their inheritance. Not really the same idea, but just the word inheritance kind of triggered that. And that's one of my favorite lines in a Bazan song. I think that's so heartbreakingly beautiful and sad, but beautiful as a dad. The idea that your kids have no idea what their inheritance is and it wouldn't make any difference if they did because they just love you. Anyway, so I like that. You blew all your inheritance and now you're trying to pin the blame on me, which I gather, and do you guys gather that that's talking about like our parents' generation, baby boomers?
Yeah.
And he even said very specifically that's about how like they blamed it on Obama. Like Obama got elected and almost immediately then I think there was the recession in 2008 maybe, and then they blamed it on him even though it couldn't have been him at that point or something like that. And I thought that was really interesting that he was willing to be that specific about it. So he clearly, when he was interviewed about that, he didn't mind pinning that down a bit. So what do you guys know about his feeling about this song, or what's your take on?
Rob, I'll let you go if you have stuff you want to add. I have some context too.
I don't have a ton of specificity to add, but that's kind of how I took this song when it came out, was about older generations kind of always snubbing their noses at younger generations, um, whereas they're the ones that are holding all the cards, and especially in this day and age, and it's even more prevalent now of, younger generations can't buy houses, have to work multiple jobs, and we're still getting pinned and blamed for, not having enough babies, or, not working hard enough, and, not contributing enough to the economy. So yeah, I always kind of took things that way. You kick and scream to get your way again. It's like, you're the people in power. The writing's on the wall. You go on and get your reward. Like, you're getting older. You have your money and your pension and your social security checks coming. Eventually, you'll die and maybe go to heaven and get that reward. So that could be playful in different ways, but all of this is just landing on him, and man, they are really getting me down. He just says it straight, point blank. And that second verse, I think, elucidates it a little more too. Like, cut off your leg to save a buck or two. Again, this playful, witty, you cut off your leg to save a buck or two, but because you never really consider the cost, that's funny to me in a very dark way. But yeah, very, very politically driven.
Yeah.
And the phrase "consider the cost," if you didn't grow up in the church, you wouldn't know that that's a reference to a verse. But I love it when he employs a phrase like that, but doesn't draw attention to it. He just drops it, and if you're in that club, you'll know that that's a reference, as to a verse, and if you don't, you won't, but it'll still make sense. So I appreciate that kind of stuff.
And I've heard this is like a direct reference to the financial crisis. The phrase I saw online was it's a eulogy to the baby boomers. Like, so this is a direct. This is a really interesting song for me because he is being very, very specific in his like frustration with them, and like, you got to remember he's recording this album in kind of, it looks like it's late 2010. It comes out in 2011 we are just starting to, so like the economy and everything bottomed. Like it dropped, but it really, really bottomed at this point. I moved into my house, the house we currently live in December of 2011. I think it was 2011 or 2012. And the only reason we could afford the house is because we weren't super impacted by the financial fallout of 2008. I didn't lose a job. It wasn't a good paying job, but I had a steady job. And we were able to buy this house because the market had bottomed to such a degree. It's the only reason we could afford the house is we had saved up some money and we got help from family, to be totally honest. But like it's the bottom of the market. So that's when he's writing this. So it's like a direct reference to the financial crisis, which is I don't think he's talked about financial crises on any of his previous albums. I mean, this is just such an interesting song. And yes, it is very much, meant to be pointing the finger essentially, and kind of a frustration with these people who have bandaged this system to limp along and fail everyone else while they get, they get the benefits of it. And so I think it's super interesting that it's the title track. It's super interesting that it's track 9. I love that it's the penultimate song on the album. There's so many aspects about this song that are just so interesting. And yeah, so that's kind of what I have for references. And I think the chorus is haunting and fantastic and lovely yet angry. He mixes so many things into it.
When I listened to the song and I read a little bit more about it, I thought, man, this feels like would have come out in 2017 or 18, because it feels so incredibly relevant to, the Trump era. But he wrote it in 2011 or maybe before, and so it seems like it was somewhat prophetic. I know it was more about the economic situation, but so much of this applies even more now, in the sense of, the way I perceive the baby boomer generation now, based on the last 10 years, is a lot of that's what he's talking about. But that was just the last 10 years. So he was writing this 5 years before that. It's kind of impressive to me that he picked up on that, I guess, before I had, certainly.
Yeah.
And before it was really spelled out by the most recent political era in this country. So I think he always had his finger on the pulse of things, whether it was church and society and marriage. He's just, I think I've called him a modern prophet before. I think he is someone who really can just speak unflinchingly these truths that are hard to look at, but he just makes you look directly at them. And he's just not afraid to say those things that are hard and just let you sit with them.
Well, I like those lyrics. You got the market its own bodyguard, and all the people are getting hurt. We have people in front of Congress just dodging questions about these awful things happening, but saying, but the market's at 50,000, It's like defending that, but people are dying and getting. I'll get off my soapbox. But the point is,
no,
yes,
I think you should stay on your soapbox.
Prophetic, absolutely prophetic.
I'm trying to think when the phrase wealth inequality became a phrase for me, that I was like, yeah, that's become one of my things. Is I worry. We were talking about kids, and I'm launching children in the next couple of years, and I'm terrified for, like my anxiety of being a parent will shift into how can I support them in young adulthood, and like I have major concerns about how my kids will be able to, we've joked about like, well, they can live here as long as they want, and maybe they'll have to live together to make things work until they can find somebody else to, But when did wealth inequality become a phrase that I used? It definitely wasn't in 2011. It was after that. And he's hitting on that long before I think it became a standard topical conversation in America.
Yeah. And musically, the music is so, again, it's an over 6 minute song. It doesn't feel like it, though,
No, it doesn't
because
at
of the
all.
intensity of it. But it is not in a negative way, but it plods along. It's very intentionally plodding along, acoustic ballad, but just the weight of that plodding is just so intentional with the heaviness that he's feeling and how it's getting him down.
Yeah.
It's It's all tied together in this package that makes so much sense.
Yeah. And again, I would recommend the documentary because I do think some of this is spelled out or not spelled out. It's it's expanded upon by Bazan in that documentary
Mm.
very nicely. You really get a sense of his feelings about, his parents' generation, and but also you get the sense that like he adores his parents and he doesn't want to. He knows that some of his songs have been provocative and that they have hurt his parents, and he doesn't like that, but he just has to write these songs, but he still maintains a relationship with them. And I completely understand that. I adore my parents, and I also utterly disagree with them on almost everything, but I see them every week and we're close. And so I feel like I understand that struggle um, of like, I resent that generation, but my parents are two of the nicest, most wonderful people in the world. And that kind of friction between anger and disagreement and also just love
Hmm.
um, and appreciation for what they've done for me.
Yeah.
That kind of always, those things are always sort of sitting next to each other in my mind.
It's a whole new dynamic to the song that I never thought about. As like he's writing about his parents with maybe frustration and love. That's
Mhm.
that's really interesting.
Mm.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
It's also musically, it's another one, man. The guy knows how to put together an album because it works because it is so plotting and long, because it comes right after. I think Don't Change is like a super catchy song. I'm trying to, like that's kind of one of the more like poppy songs in some ways, even though it's dark. Like it's dark lyrically, but like I think that one's kind of catchy enough that it can be this nice transition into these final two songs. And really
Yeah.
the final two songs are kind of a work of art together. You go
Yeah.
from this strange negotiations straight into
Mhm.
what again is I think a love song in a lot of ways, which I don't feel like I've heard a lot of from Bazan. So again, he just knows how to put these things together. He just to put together an album. It's so impressive.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we talked about being prophetic. People is like, you thought we were divided in 2011. Holy cow. We're not even, we weren't even close. Divided wasn't even a word. This is probably my favorite song on the record just because it's this, I don't know, the whole, there's some of his best lyrical work, specifically that chorus. When you love the truth enough, you start to tell it all the time. And when it gets you into trouble, you discover you don't mind. Because it's good to finally, because if good is finally gonna trump, then man, you got to take stock and you got to take your lumps, or else they'll trickle down into someone else's cup.
Mm.
Like, and then later when he goes that, but man, you got to find the truth. And when you find the truth, don't budge until the truth you found begins to change. And it does. It's so good.
Oh,
So
it's
good.
so good. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. And it's a reference to a Johnny Cash song. Like there's just so much going on here. I love this song. So I think it's my favorite on the record. I'll shut up about it now though.
Well, and I'd like to shout out also the line early on, which is the first time the song really kicks it into gear. It's so powerful because it's sudden and it's just like so sharply worded that it's perfect. He says, but you're, oh, where did it go?
You're selfish and mean, is it that one?
But now you're selfish and mean, your eyes glued to a screen, and what titillates you is depraved and obscene. That is just
Mm.
Yeah.
dynamite.
Yeah.
After he had been talking about people helping people, I saw people helping people all the time. You were people helping people in your prime. I thought that people loving people was were the norm because you were people loving people. And then he says, but then. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mm.
I've felt that so much in the last 10 years, and he saw it coming, or he
Yeah.
saw it at the time.
It's a question about belonging too, right? I mean, he's asking himself, like, where do I fit into all this now?
Yeah.
If you just look at his career, right? He was playing Cornerstone and, you know, then he wasn't
Yeah.
and got his, people turned their back on him and, he doubted his faith, which is the worst thing you could possibly do. And, alcohol was involved and golly, he went through the ringer of, of, the Christian circuit. And, you know, he says, I want to know who are these people. And
Yeah.
he's probably talking about himself. I want to know who I am. Like, where do I belong? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he says, if I'm honest with myself at all, these are my people. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's saying, I have a lot in common with them. I'm not something utterly different, and so I don't know what to, I don't know what to do with that, but there it is.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
some of that empathy you talked about earlier.
Hmm.
Like where
Yeah.
like he's trying, like I'm so frustrated with you and I feel like but yet I want to be empathetic. I
Hmm.
want to try. And so it's this again, it's not just a straight like, oh yeah, this is simple black and white. It really is exploring the complexity of these relationships and this existence that we have as a country that is you thought it was divided in 2011. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Wow. Which makes it even more impressive to me in a way that, or more obvious that how much he has developed and grown and moved into a different chapter, that he could write the most scathing albums imaginable now about this era, but instead he's pivoted to this really emotionally intimate stuff that's about his upbringing, but not really about the religious aspect quite as much necessarily, but more just like emotional stuff. Like I appreciate that he's not grinding the axe nearly as obviously anymore. Really not. That's not the general thing that he's doing. And even though now of all times he could be, but I think he's in a different part of his life and he's
Yeah.
trying to talk about other things, not just rehashing the same thing like you said about Christian Branches part 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yellow Bike also helped me win Music League.
Oh,
So
Yellow Bike. So good.
let's go back. I think Rob, you're up.
Let's talk about Don't Change just real quick.
All right.
I think it's a good one. It's a short one. It is very kind of poppy and catchy and simple musically. But I think it is an important lead in to Strange Negotiations, which we talked about earlier. I think it's important in its placement and its reflection. Um, this may seem silly, but while I was listening to it today, I couldn't stop thinking, okay, I'm a big Star Wars guy. I don't know if you all are big Star Wars people at all.
Yeah.
But maybe the first teaser trailer before Rogue One came out is just like clips of the movie. And Forrest Whitaker's character, he plays the character named Saw Gerrera, and he's like this insurrectionist, rebel, resistance. Uh, some might label him a terrorist, but yeah, character. And he's just monologuing, asking questions of the main character, and he says, what will you do when they catch you? What will you do if they break you? Will you continue to fight? What will you become? And that's a theme that just kind of like covers this album. Like, how much are we willing to give up of ourselves? How much are we willing to change or stay the same or bend or break? Um, what positions do we hold? What positions are you willing to give up in politics and work and life and faith? But I think it's succinctly, talked about here with the in the characters and himself in the verses and just the summation of the chorus and um, I think Jeremy mentioned like the economy of words. He wakes up in the morning, he tells himself, today I'll make a change.
Mm-hmm.
But falling into his bed at night, he thinks, man, it's a beautiful day to stay the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you write like that? It's
I
wonderful.
know, yeah.
I hate how good he is.
Yeah. I feel like every time he references an alcoholic person or a person who, just drinks recklessly, it's just spot on. Like it just feels like he knows that person because I think he knows that he has some of that in him. Um, I
It
think
helps that
he,
like his singing voice is just so dry
yeah.
and
Yeah.
not slurred, but he's always just a little bit behind the beat. The
Hmm.
drawl that he sings with, it's always a little whiskey laden sounding. That helps a bunch too.
Yeah.
Kind of raspy, Dylan-esque in some ways.
Yeah. Well, and I think final chorus, it kind of does reveal that he is the person, right? He does a lot of that on this record where it's like he's talking about a person, but then it's kind of him in the end. And, you know, so like, yeah, there's a nice like kind of dynamic that he plays with. And it feels like a sweet song if you don't, you know, like when he delivers the line, "Man, it was a beautiful day to stay the same." It feels very sweet and like kind of fun. And yet it's like kind of dark in some ways that, you know, this person can't change or refuses to. I don't know. It's there's so many layers to it.
Does the tiger have a capacity to change its stripes?
Yeah, it struck me as more just the dark side of that. Not, I mean, it's definitely a jaunty tune, which I think juxtaposes nicely with, you know, the relative darkness of the idea that this guy is just never gonna change.
Yeah.
And his intentions to do so are just hollow, and they're not really ever going to be panned out. So when I, you know, when he says, "Man, it was a beautiful day to stay the same," it's like a good mic drop, like revealing, yeah, the hollowness of these resolutions to be better, because you don't really have an intention to do the work to get there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's definitely, you know, like you said about track 9 is plotting and weary, and this one musically feels pretty chipper.
Yeah.
So it's a nice transition from 8 to 9 and then to 10. I would be happy to talk about "Won't Let Go."
All right.
I think we have
because yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe the most overtly understandable song. I mean, the lyrics aren't too hard to misconstrue, I wouldn't say, because he's clearly in a plane, probably on tour. In the beginning, he calls someone and wakes them up from their sleep. That's got to be his wife at the time. And then I don't know that he is very often in his career been so earnest in talking about his wife as to say, "I will not let go. I will not let go of you." And we know now, you know, their marriage ended in 2020, so it really gives it another level of poignancy to know that he, at the time in this song, really wanted to hold on to that, and ultimately it didn't work out. But I love the humility, or I love the poignance of, "I will humbly acknowledge that I won't always get my way, but darling, death will have to pry my fingers loose." I think that's such a romantic, you know, that's his version of like a really romantic line, because it's self-deprecating, but it's so earnest, and like it's so aspirational. Like, he knows that marriage isn't pretty and that it's a mess, but he just is going to hold on as long as much as he possibly can. So I think that's a really interesting choice to end with that. I mean, based on the documentary, it sounded like that period of time, or maybe they were talking about a different period of time, but just that road life put a huge strain on their marriage. And so I picture this song being him saying, "Okay, I want to write something to let her know that, like, even though I'm gone all the time, I am committed to this. I need her to know that." So I think that's just really poignant for me as someone with my own struggles with all that stuff. So I appreciated that song a lot. It's a good choice, an interesting choice to end with that.
Yeah. Rob, what are your thoughts on "Won't Let Go"?
Yeah, not too much to add. It's very beautiful. Uh, you know, the intentional last track on the album, end of side B, his marriage, his wife at the time as this grounding center point of his life. It's beautiful. Yeah.
One of the things I read was kind of like, it's an interesting dynamic for a person who wrote songs about faith and then losing faith and leaving faith behind. And like, they were like, it's even this idea of like, here's him almost finding other things to put that love into. Like, this is like you know, he's found that like, oh, I don't have that love of God that I used to have. But I have this. And like, so it's an interesting dynamic in the space of his career. Like, I think for other artists, it'd just be like, oh, it's a love song. We get it. But for him, because he's been so focused on those deconstruction songs, there's been so much of that. It is an interesting aspect of like him, like, oh, other things he's found that he can love. And so I think it is it's the whole back half of the album, again, like as a guy who doesn't, who likes music that's more more up tempo, I still am like just enthralled by the back half of this record because it just puts so many things together. Coming off of Strange Negotiations, where he's this struggle with this generation. Yeah, grounding is a great word. Like he's kind of grounded in this relationship and finding this that I want to find kind of strength, and I want to make this work. And I don't know. I think it's a great close to the album and a very interesting song in his catalog.
And I'll make yet another pitch for the documentary, because you see in the documentary him actually calling his wife and his kids, and you see snippets of him talking to them, and it's aching because you see his face and how he's trying to connect, but he feels the strain of being on the road. And so I think that, even though that was a number of years later, I think that sheds light on the meaning of this song and what it's like to call your wife from the road and try to maintain this devotion, even though you're kind of living two separate lives. So you actually see that fleshed out in the documentary. So that's yet another reason to watch that.
We could touch on Wolves at the Door. I think it's a good one.
I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one other one that I would like to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. After this, I don't think I think I might be done my song draft, but I
Okay.
think we'll touch on Wolves at the Door.
That's perfect. Let's finish with the first song.
Let's
Perfect.
finish with this. Yeah. Again, darkly playful. He says, like, and they had their way with your wife a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was over there cursing taxes and the government's like, ooh, that's awful. But had their way with a little bit. Like, what does that mean?
A little
Like,
bit.
it's like,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what it means, but yeah, these wolves, we can go deeper into what the wolves are if we want to, but yeah, it is a great kickoff track, if not,
Yeah.
without going further into the lyrical content right now. It is a great rockin', catchy kickoff track. And then when it comes back down just a little bit, because you're a god dang fool over and over again, and I love you. It's like you are, I'm going to define you in this way, but you're a part of me, and I have this relationship with you. And there's tension there, and it's really, really rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In a way, that could be looked at as the thesis statement of the album, that he touched on numerous songs. You make the judgment about a person or a thing that you deem unworthy or unrighteous or awful or corrupt, and then you look back at yourself and say, but I am that too, or I'm connected to that. There's some of that in me as well. And to me, that's the essence of Dave Bassan, because he can call out the awfulness of the world and the hypocrisy better than anyone, but he's also just deeply self-deprecating and does not have any pretensions to being some kind of to being I'm better than everyone else. He just doesn't give that off at all, especially in concert. You just listen to him and you think, man, this guy is just legitimately humble in like to me, the meaningful way of humble, where he wants to platform other people, and he wants to, make people think about things in a way that kind of helps us all connect better. He's not just a fire and brimstone like prophet calling out fire and brimstone prophets. He's just he's an empathetic guy. So also, I would like to say that surprise, you mentioned some of this, but surprise, they took your money and ate your kids. And then what you said, and they had their way with your wife a little bit. That's just, that whole passage is incredible.
They're already defined as wolves.
Yeah,
they invited them in. They're like, oh, I'm gonna have one up on them. They're gonna make me a feast. Wait a second.
Yeah, they ate your kids. That's just perfect. And that's It's just so good. Oh,
Yeah.
but then because you're a GD full, and I
I
love,
like how you
yeah,
guys are
like you
trying to edit
said,
the
that
swear.
is.
I'll beep the swears. Just go
Well,
nuts,
no, I
guys.
know, but I would rather not because I feel like when I hear a beep, it feels like, oh, what did that person say? Was it the worst possible thing? No, I'd rather say GD and not have it beeped than
Okay.
say it and have it beeped because I don't. But it is, I mean, just viscerally, it is so powerful that line that's repeated.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just the perfect use of GD, and then to follow it with "and I love you." I mean, that's fantastic. Just a killer chorus, perfect opening to the album.
Yeah.
I love everything about this song.
Let's hang on that verse for just a second longer too. It's nothing. It's something that I've probably thought about a million times, but it just hit me again. Like they took your money, they ate your kids, they had their way with your wife a little bit, and you wept on the porch with your head in your hands, and you'd think it'd be because you just lost your kids, you lost your money, and your wife is being ravaged, but nope, you're cursing taxes and the government.
Yeah.
Like your priorities are so out of whack. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so this is a quote straight from him. Somebody asked him about it at a concert. Well, like, what's this song about? And like, this is an overtly political song. So
Mhm.
he's like, there's a dynamic that has been happening since the late 70s in politics, where the Conservative Party has gotten working class people to vote against their own economic interests, election after election after election, all the while indoctrinating them with the idea that if they just keep doing that, that everything's going to get better, and it just gets worse and worse for them all the time. Like like having that and then like listening to that chorus, and you're just like, man, what a way to spin that into something that is like even more powerful. Like that statement's powerful, but then when you read the chorus that you guys just went through, like it's even more powerful. Like it is a perfect representation of it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ending with the politics. I love it.
Prophetic. Again,
Yeah.
prophetic.
Prophetic. Yeah. Yeah. Golly.
Maybe we need a strange negotiations part two of the Trump era.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're right, Jeremy. He has not done that. Which
Yeah.
is really I've never even thought about the fact that he could be out there even more so, and instead he's gone way more autobiographical.
Yeah,
So interesting.
absolutely.
Man
Yeah,
alive.
I mean, I'm sure if you sat down with him with a beer and you had a conversation about what's going on right now, it would be fascinating, and I'm sure he would be just as upset as I'm imagining we are in our different ways. But he doesn't really put much of that into the music right now, and I think that's just an interesting choice because he could
Yeah.
and he'd be great at it. But what he's doing the last couple albums has been sensational. I mean, just really revelatory stuff. And he's still his songwriting chops are still just as good. You could say that they've evolved and maybe in some ways even better somehow, but he's really not touching that stuff as much. I think maybe I wonder if he would say I kind of burned out on grinding axes and I really want to just like go inward more these days. I don't know.
Return so fast and just in time for supper.
15 years later, that's why we're doing this, celebrating the 15-year anniversary. We've been talking about it for an hour and 20 minutes or so people can just go listen to that. But what's your pitch for somebody to go back and check this out about why this holds up for you and why it's important to you still?
The layers. I mean, we've got into it. This was such a great conversation to have with you all. I want to go listen to it again right now. I mean, I've been listening to it all week to prepare for this and think about the songs and listen for the little musical nuances and think about the lyrics. But, just to see and hear Jeremy's passion and Caleb's passion for this music and hearing some of the backstories that I, maybe knew a little of, but not that much, it just elucidates the intentionality, the details, the and again the layering of the lyrics that just make it so rich to revisit, and the fact that it's so prescient and prophetic. Not that it's that old, 15 years is not ancient, but these are topics that have gotten all the more in the public eye, not only in America but globally. Um, which is horrendously upsetting. But to handle them the way he does while still self-reflecting and still self-deprecating and
Mhm.
being humble in the ways that he wants to approach them with nuance and care is important. So, and then have some great guitar rock licks on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great. Jeremy, how about for you?
Oh boy, Rob, you took it all from me. That was so well
Sorry.
said in every way. I was nodding the whole time you were talking. That's exactly how I feel about it. This feels like the midpoint of his career to me, and
Mm,
it feels like a bridge in a way, like
Yeah,
I kind of alluded to before. I mean, the early part of his career feels like it was primarily satirizing different things about church culture
yeah,
and wealth and maybe political things a bit. Um, but then this feels like you start to see him a bit more as a person and like looking inward a bit more, as we've talked about a couple times. And then now the last three albums, as we've mentioned, are just deeply autobiographical. So I feel like you just kind of move from him not really putting himself right in the middle of the narratives he's telling, but just telling the narratives and making them come to life. And you feel like you're there, but it's not like you don't feel like it's necessarily talking about him. But now, halfway through his career, it feels like, okay, he's bringing himself into this more. And then at the end of it, or, more recently, it's all him. So I like that this is a midpoint. This is a hybrid of maybe some different threads of what he did throughout his career. And I also just think it's like a great showcase of his sheer songwriting chops. Like
yeah,
he just
absolutely.
has a way with hooks. He's had it since the beginning. He still has it just as much. He just can write a killer 3 to 4 minute song usually that just you just fall in love with the riff. The riff is so good and the guitar work is so good. And his voice is somehow perfect for the subject matter too. Like you referenced his little bit of a grizzled voice and it just works perfectly. Like if his voice was smooth and polished, I don't think it would quite fit as well, but man, his voice just conveys so much of that world weariness, but also fundamental humility and deprecation and desire to stay connected and not just be a misanthropic old man yells at cloud
Right.
guy
Yeah,
just hollering about everything that's wrong with the world. I just love that about him. He brings both in so well.
yeah. I think like a lot of his career, like this album is consistent and versatile. Like this is an album that you can sit with and like with headphones on and dissect the lyrics. It's also an album that you can put on in the background while you're doing other things, and it's got enough variety that you can kind of jam along with it while you're cooking dinner and enjoy it that way. It's got those nuances that are like when you read the lyrics, they have double meaning or they're layered and they feel intense, but it also is poppy at times enough, or at least hooky. Maybe not poppy, but it's hooky enough where you can just kind of sing along with as well. So it's just, and it's a consistent, great 40 minutes all the way through. And it's like I said, like kind of his career. It's a great encapsulation of that because it's just is, there's a lot of variety, but yet it's consistent and it's versatile in a lot of ways. It's a really unique record, and I love the idea that it bridges that first half to the second half. I love that it's overtly political and yet overtly personal at times. It's just does a
mm,
lot of things,
Yep.
and yet it feels like a cohesive package. I love it as an album
Mhm.
and not just a collection of hits or songs. Even though I think you could have had about 5 or 6 singles off this thing, and I think they
Sure.
could have worked. So, granted, I don't know where he's getting play on the radio at this point because the radio's gotten so. That's a whole other discussion. We'll save that one for the Patreon. What radio is today, but that's my pitch for this record and why it's worth going back and checking out if you missed it.
I wonder if it like took a lot out of him
Hmm.
to write this because it was several years until another
5 years.
full length came out,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I mean, I know he did like the Bazan monthly stuff, but that was kind of like writing exercises to like push himself. So I wonder if there was like a struggle or like a writer's block. I'm sure there's an interview somewhere that kind of delves deep into this. I gotta look into it. But yeah, it took a long time before a formal studio record LP came out again. Over 5 years, because I think it was late 2016 when Blanco
Blanco?
comes out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's a unique record too. It feels really
Yeah.
different than this. So that's man, I'll save that for the Patreon too. When we get David on the show, he can
Wakes up in the morning, he tells himself, today I'll make a change. But falling into his bed at night, he thinks, man, it was a beautiful day to stay the same.
That is it. That's our breakdown of Strange Negotiations by David Razan. Again, released May 24th, 2011, celebrating a 15-year anniversary. Jeremy, you're a writer and sharing your writing with people. Where can people find your writing and where can people find you online?
Thank you for asking. I would be deeply honored if even one person went to Substack and looked up Dad Nomad Fighting Off the Sad, which is a blog I write every week about mental health and about fatherhood, some humorous pieces, some dark pieces about depression stuff that I've struggled with in the past, and some stuff about road trips and park hopping and all that kind of stuff. So, Dad Nomad Fighting Off the Sad on Substack. I'm also on Twitter, which I will always call Twitter as long as it exists
The
and as long
requirement
as
on the show.
yeah. What is I think I'm Jeremy Wingert 79. Probably shouldn't give away my birth year. That probably some hacker will take that. But and so Twitter, you can find me on Facebook if you want. I post a lot on Facebook too. So, but Substack, boy, I would be really honored if anybody went and found my writing there. That's my big passion. I wake up early and I write, and it's meant the world to me. I wish I had started 15 years earlier, but I started when my son was born 9.5 years ago, and I've been writing ever since. And I love blogging about my life.
There you go. Awesome. And then Rob, you run the Me Without You archive. I think for sure we should make sure people are aware of that. How can people get a hold of that?
Yeah, I was on Twitter for a long time, but that had its time. So I went to Blue Sky for a while and it just didn't seem to have the juice. So, and I was, so I kind of let that fade. I made an Instagram page for the Me Without You archive now that I'm loosely kind of, just having some fun with again, just hanging out with fellow fans and friends and stuff. And, just trying to keep the dream alive of my love of Me Without You and, sharing memes and cool merch things that I've collected over the years, special items, sharing little band history and stuff. But yeah, you can follow me there if you want. As far as me myself, I keep rather private otherwise. So, find me in my hometown or at my park or at my kid's baseball game. Good luck.
I know not to even ask. I'm just like, no. I'm thankful I've been able to connect with you and
Love you, Caleb.
know your personal stuff. But Me Without You archive, go check it out. There's tons of cool stuff there. So yeah, absolutely. So awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. This is great. I love when a record comes up that's like on the calendar that I'm like, yeah, I like that record. But like the chance to dive into it a little deeper and to listen to it, like I've been listening to it for 2 weeks now. I've been carrying the record upstairs and downstairs between the two record players to listen to it. So I appreciate people signing up on the spreadsheet, which I'll talk about at the end, because it gives me a chance to do it. And I appreciate you guys hanging out. It's very late on the East Coast, so I appreciate you guys hanging out for a couple hours and talking about this record. So thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Thank you very much, Caleb, and nice to meet you, Rob.
Yeah, Jeremy, it's been great. This record means a whole lot more to me now after this discussion. It's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can love an album and then you talk to someone else who also loves it and is coming from their own perspective, and it makes you love it even more because you're like, yeah, what he said, and I hadn't even thought about that. So
exactly,
this has helped me appreciate it even more.
I feel so full right now.
Awesome. And we're gonna talk about our the Parks Tour podcast. We'll get that going too. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Caleb.
See ya.
Strange negotiations. Man, they really are
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Album Anniversary Podcast. I want to say thanks again to you, Jeremy and Rob, for staying up a little late and talking about this record with me. Super, super fun. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? What are your favorites from this album? I'm still on all the social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Blue Sky. I'm trying to make YouTube work, and I'm trying to make Patreon work. I have a $2 level on Patreon. Go check it out. You get at least one extra show every month. You can also email me, CalebTheSpypodcasts@gmail.com. I have a spreadsheet going of all the shows I'm hoping to do 2026. At some point, I'll start planning 2027 because I really love doing this. The guests are often from the community, and that's how we do this content. People I've met online. So if there's an album you're interested in doing, you can add your name. I'll do my best to work in as many people as I can. Please subscribe, share the podcast, and leave a rating or review. Tell somebody you liked the show if you liked it. If you didn't like it, don't tell anybody that, but just tell them you liked it. You can lie. It's okay. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
I will not let go. I will not let go. I will not let go of you. I will not let go. I will not let go. I will not let go of you.
Okay. Let's move on to songs. And so the way I've started referring to this is more of like a song draft. It's not, I know the question is, what's your favorite song or favorite songs, but it's really like pick a song, we'll talk about it, then we'll pick it. There's only 10 of them. We probably could, is there songs that you're like, no, I have absolutely nothing to say. There's only one for me that I don't really have a ton of notes, but I don't have to talk about any of these. It's really up to you guys. If you guys want to try and be like, hey, let's run through all 10 of them, we definitely can. Or if it's like, I have something to say about 6 of these, and that's fine.
I guess I would prefer a little bit the latter because there are a couple that I thought I'm not sure what to say about this because I can't quite pin down what I think the lyrics
Okay.
are about and didn't necessarily write notes about, the music of each one. But
Perfect.
like in the second half of, I think Messes, I didn't necessarily have
That's
a
mine.
specific take
I don't
on.
have
Yeah.
anything on that.
Yeah, Messes is one.
And
Same.
Eating Paper, I think it sounds amazing, but I'm trying to understand it and I don't quite get what he's talking about there other than specific lines.
My comments are all about the music in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, okay. All
I
right.
so badly want to I want to understand, like, as much as I'm not didactic like I was in, as a youth group kid, but I do like always just think, okay, but just tell me what this is about. Give me maybe.
Man.
Yeah. Oh, I've always
maybe it
assumed
is.
that I have this like need to be to be didactic and
Because a youth pastor at one point
Distill
played you a
things.
Petro video and said, "This is what it means," and you were like, "All
Oh,
music
yeah.
must be like this going forward." I bet you.
Oh
that
yeah,
is
my
true.
youth pastor would go through every time Stephen Curtis Chapman came out with a new album, he would put the lyrics on a one of those transparent overhead
Oh
things,
yeah.
and we would listen through the entire album, and after each song we would talk about what it meant, and he would rate each song from 1 to 10, and he put it on a little post-it on the back of his CD. So
Wow.
I definitely learned, like, let's turn this into numbers and let's like distill it into a sentence and what's the verse that this is based on and all that. But I don't do that anymore. But there's probably still a little bit
That's
of that.
intense.